I'm Yaika Kutsta. I'm a program manager in the Looker Customer Success Group. The last 10 years of my tech career have been in product, program, and customer success.
And I'm Zara. I'm the head of data culture and transformation programs here at Looker. I've been with Looker for about 4 years now, but in SaaS customer success for around 9 years. What we want to talk to you about today is, albeit that we're from different backgrounds, having that human-centered approach and applying that to your mindset is really going to make the difference in successfully rolling out a data platform to users across the whole organization.
In this presentation, first I'll spend some time talking about product management methodologies and some tools you can borrow to help you design and deliver your data offering. Then Zara will spend some time talking about some key considerations prior to launching that data product. For example, how you can use empathy to smoothly transition your users to the desired state, and what will set them up for long-term success. More and more often, we're hearing of disciplines outside of product and user experience adopting agile methodologies, human-centered design, and design thinking. It's becoming really clear the value of taking a customer-first, user-first approach. We're starting to see folks in the BI space join in on this conversation. Looker's own chief data advocate, Daniel Mintz, often speaks on this topic. In his popular blog post, "It's Time to Become a Data Product Manager," he speaks about how in a traditional BI department, data analysts are trained to be a service department. They receive requests, they build it to specs, and then they return the solution as described. This type of service model works in some situations if the situation is straightforward, the solution is really obvious, and there is an additional benefit from innovative thinking or taking a deeper understanding of the people involved. But we know this is often not the case. Let's consider a scenario where you have 3 different groups. You have salespeople, sales managers, and a product team. And they have different data goals. Let's say the salespeople want to see upsell opportunities. Those managers, the revenue forecast, and the product wants to see feature utilization. The solution, not necessarily that straightforward. If the salespeople request that they want to see that upsell data directly embedded in their sales software, some people's needs are met, some goals are met, but there also might be some negative downstream effect. So perhaps the professional services team and the support team is also in the sales application, and maybe now it's harder for them to find what they need when they're looking at those records. And perhaps some of those salespeople don't actually spend most of their day in the sales application and instead are in their email or in chat. They never see those reports. And we haven't even begun to address what the product managers need and what the sales managers need. With many different types of people involved, and all these different needs, we've introduced some complexity that requires some additional considerations. Product managers oftentimes get specific feature requests, but unlike in a service model, what they consider is who is making this ask? What's their needs? What's the goal behind the ask? And who else needs to be considered before they design a solution? Asking these types of questions helps them take a strategic approach so that they can design something that has clearly stated goals and business outcomes. In that previous solution that we described, it only considered the salespeople whose workflow was primarily in the sales application. It didn't consider other users that use the sales application or the other salespeople in their user workflows. It didn't even consider the sales manager or product manager's needs. Now, let's imagine that previous scenario through a product manager's lens. This time, we're going to keep in mind those different goals and the different needs and the different people groups. So perhaps now the solution design looks a bit more like this. That embedded upsell report in the sales application is now only shown if the user is a salesperson. The salespeople who spend their workday in email can have those reports sent to their inbox. Those in the chat application can request it on demand by a chat bot. The sales managers can have their own custom dashboard that's built just for them with their specific needs and the information that they care about most. And the product team has their own version of the utilization data that is modeled with feature data because that's what they care about. When we're designing and building data solutions, that takes the time to understand what and why we're doing something and what the end result needs to be, that's when we can deliver a valuable solution and make sure there's a great user experience. You don't have to be a product manager to begin to integrate some of these tools in your toolbox today. Here are a few examples to get you started. User stories. Writing requests in a simple structure of as a, I want, so that provides a holistic view of who, what, why something is needed. A really quick example here. As a salesperson, I want to see upsell opportunity information within my existing workflow so that I can proactively reach out to customers to increase their contracts. This doesn't assume an end solution, but instead provides valuable information of what needs to be considered, who is involved, and can allow the product manager to begin to understand where to start. Designing and building in an iterative process. So there are many different agile methodologies out there. Scrum, Lean, Kanban. These all impose very different structures for how the teams work, but a common idea is taking an incremental approach. So what this allows you to do is that you can be checking in that you're going in the right direction. You can validate assumptions that you might be making up front that are incorrect. And it helps you integrate new information as more information is learned. Taking an iterative approach is much more efficient than building something in its entirety and then finding out at the end that it's not usable, people don't want to use it, or you have to start over. This is much more efficient. One way that you can start taking a more iterative approach is using wireframes and doing early user testing. It's really helpful to create mockups and wireframes so that you can have a lightweight way to validate what you're going to build. You can show this to your users who can then express any concerns or make sure to reorient you in the right direction. So the user experience is also a really crucial element here in great product design. So if you build something beautiful, but no one knows where to find it or how to use it, it's not very helpful or valuable. A couple of examples of Looker-specific features that you can leverage to enhance that user experience, I've included here below. So thinking about usability, think about leveraging Looker's custom homepage to curate that first login experience for your users so they see exactly what they need, that they care most about. Use those tooltips and include descriptions to help them along. For workflow integration, think about taking the data directly to your users. Where are they in their workflow? Where do they need to see that data? Looker has a great Slack application integration where you can have a chatbot where people can request information on demand or have scheduled information sent to them. You can embed data with iframes into other applications like a sales application. We also have robust API and SDKs that lets you custom build anything you can imagine. Get the data wherever you need, where those users are, and you can have that look and feel be exactly to your specifications. The benefits of taking a product model is that it encourages innovative solutions, it helps you design and deliver a thoughtful solution, and it keeps your users and their needs in mind. This begins to set up the success of your data solution and the value you want to deliver to your users.
Yaika started to tell you about the product model and the approaches that product managers take. So let's pair that with some human-centric ideas that will help, again, make that process easier on your end users. We want to ensure collaboration, mitigate as much risk as possible in this transformation, and essentially deliver value to every user in the business. Everyone wants this data-driven culture, so here are some tips that you can impart to help get you there. It would be easy for me to share a timeline of linear events that we want to take these customers through, but realistically, that's just not how it works. In the interest of time, we're going to talk about 4 key work streams. Really, you'll need to go away and research these. There's so much under the surface there. But having these as foundations that you can refer back to when that change is a little bit stickier than that you would have liked, It just helps give that framework. It's also a really good way to track what's working well, what's not working, and what you might do differently for the next department or however you choose to phase this rollout. Do remember that these aren't sort of stakes in the ground. They will evolve and they'll change shape over time. I'd be concerned if they didn't. But that's absolutely fine, and that's why you won't be taking this all on yourself. We will be advising you to leverage other people in the team and across the organisation so that this change is as painless as possible, and we're leading with that customer-first approach. We're going to start with vision. So clarity and change is incredibly important from a security perspective. It's very easy to kind of paper over what is really happening, but if you can provide transparency around really where we're trying to get to, recognizing attitudes and behaviors of the past, but framing those attitudes and behaviors that we're working towards, again, provides that North Star that people can look to. A surprisingly overlooked requirement of your vision statements, mission statements, goals, all those sort of things, is that they have to make sense. They have to be understood, and they should be able to be communicated across the business, and everyone should be able to communicate those back to you. The other thing is you don't want to kind of build these vision statements and mission statements in a silo. Leverage your change agents and your stakeholders to make sure that the language that you're using makes sense. Ensure that it's kind of tapping into any concerns that people may have, and bake all of that in. Again, it's this customer-first approach. You'll then realise that part of the work that you do here will help inform some of your communications moving forward. And as I've already said, stakeholders are going to be one of those work streams that are going to need to be managed and recorded. They are absolutely indispensable, and you'll want to make sure that you're kind of aware of who they are, what levels of engagement they are required to have. And so a radar is a really easy visual way to get a snapshot in a point of time. Who are those stakeholders and where do they sit in the business? Of course, this will change over time. Depending on where you are in your project, people will, roll through those different levels of engagement. They'll drop off altogether and new ones will come on board. But you do need to supplement that with a spreadsheet. Obviously noting their names, who they are, their departments, but do make a note of what their influence is, their sentiment towards the change, what's in it for them. Because they'll need to be managed as well. And do bear in mind that whoever these stakeholders are, they will be further along in that change journey than the end users that you are kind of moving from state A to state B. So build that trust with them, because you need to make sure that any communications that they share are kind of in line with what you're ready to communicate. A really common mistake in enterprise rollouts is just relying on having this network of your stakeholders. But you really need change agents. These are people that are on the ground. They can have a line into your stakeholders. Remember, enterprise, you can't manage all of this yourself. The real key thing about change agents, and absolutely having this mapped out before you're going into launch, you have people on the ground that can provide you with information around, the thoughts and feelings in the run up to the change, but also someone that understands the culture within the department that you're looking to change their processes. They'll understand language, terminology, anxieties, and things like that. They're also really good people to help bulk out that training piece, again, because they have that understanding. They know how to talk to other members of the team. Communication is another really core piece, and it shouldn't be taken lightly. So you should want to have a really good framework in place, an understanding or a high-level overview of the communications that you want to send out to the business. Have a spreadsheet that you can refer to with an idea of who is going to send the particular communication, the type of communication it is, the outcome that you're looking to drive, but also, of course, who the recipients are. That will also help inform who the best person is to send that communication. It's all about making sure that that denial phase and all of those difficult phases in the change curve are mitigated as much as possible. Again, leveraging those stakeholders and your change agents who are on the ground is also going to help you kind of iterate on what those communications might be. The majority of the comms in your pre-rollout phase is actually going to be to your change agents and stakeholders. Letting them know what you need of them, letting them know what it is, in it for them. So it's kind of starting before a lot of people even know that you have purchased a new tool. There are lots of benefits to this human-centric approach, but really what we're talking about here is you're developing in an efficient way. We know that as soon as those users do log in, they're going to be seeing value in every interaction. They'll have a relevant data experience. They'll have an enablement plan that will work for them because you would have baked all of that information in as to how you've trained and built out those tools for them. But ultimately what you're doing is you're mitigating that people risk. When it comes to these transformational programs, it really is the biggest reason why such projects like this fail. There are lots of benefits to this human-centric approach, making sure that from day one, when they do log in, they're able to see that that feedback they've provided has been baked into the experience. Everything is going to be relevant to them, it's going to be in context, and of course, it's going to drive value from the get-go. Ultimately, what we're doing here is we're telling you how to mitigate the people side of change, which is one of the biggest reasons that these transformational projects fail. So we don't want you to be in that boat.
We encourage you all to take a moment and consider how you're currently building and delivering your solutions. Think about where and how you might want to adopt some of the user-centered tools and methodologies we talked about today. We would love to continue this conversation with you. Connect with us on LinkedIn and let's keep chatting. Thanks.